In terms of shooting, he was the Steph Curry of his era. He could handle the ball like Kyrie Irving, but with Magic Johnson's passing flair, and on top of everything, he had Michael Jordan's hunger for scoring. But he played before some of those guys were even born, and many consider him to be the greatest collegiate player ever. His name is Pete Maravich. However, everybody called him Pistol. And Pistol Pete played like he was one of the Harlem Globetrotters, as many of his moves were never seen before in the NBA.
Maravich, boy, he's got all kinds of moves. What move doesn't this guy have, Joe?
The Pistol was a spectacle, a basketball magician, and one of the biggest stars in the darkest eras of the NBA. This is the Pete Maravich story, and why he might be the most talented guard ever. But before we talk about the Pistol, we first have to mention his father, Peter Maravich Sr., who was the biggest influence on his son's career. Pete Sr. was the son of Serbian immigrants, but because of his childhood job of delivering newspapers, everybody called him Press. Press Maravich fell in love with basketball as a kid, and he played obsessively, earning a college scholarship and playing in minor basketball leagues in his 20s. In 1946, Press signed a professional contract with the Pittsburgh Ironmen in the first season of the newly founded BAA League, which a few years later rebranded as today's NBA. However, at the end of that season, the Ironmen disbanded, and simultaneously, Pete was born. As a result, Press ended his playing career at the age of 32. Press then turned to coaching, and his love for basketball was quickly instilled in his son. When Pete was only 3 years old, he had already started dribbling and shooting. By 1954, at the age of 7, he had begun playing organized basketball. That year, Pete began training seriously after he told his dad that he wanted to become the best player in the world and win an NBA title. Maravich Sr. was delighted that his son shared the same passion for basketball, and the most crucial thing to Press was for Pete to instill the habit of being one with the ball. He made him carry it everywhere with him, even keeping the ball in his bed when he went to sleep. Some of Press's methods would be considered brutal in today's age, but Pete did everything with pleasure, wanting to prove that he could do anything with the ball. Pete dribbled while riding a bicycle, with his right hand on the way to school and with his left on the way home. He would kneel in the back seat of the car with his head out the window and dribble while his father slowly drove. On the way back, he would switch to the other side and dribble with his other hand. Maravich even took the ball to the movies, and despite people cursing at the bouncing noise, Pete was relentless. When his son was 9, Press started coaching at Clemson University, and he would always bring Pete to practices and games. And despite being 10 years younger than the players his father was coaching, Pete routinely challenged Clemson's players in shooting competitions and would almost always win. Maravich became so proficient with the ball that he could spin it on his fingers for hours, a feat that some of the current NBA superstars can't do for 15 seconds.
It's there.
Can't do it.
And even though Jason Williams made the elbow pass famous, Pete used to pass with his elbows before he hit puberty. Maravich quickly started participating in 5-on-5 practices at Clemson, and when one of the assistant coaches brought his friend Bob Cousy, a Celtics legend, Cousy couldn't believe what he was seeing. After one of Pete's passes, Cousy stopped the game and shouted, "Who the hell is that kid?" Pete became so good that he started playing on a varsity high school team at the age of 12. Opponents didn't guard him at first because they thought it was a joke to play against a skinny little kid until he started making shots. Then they started taking him seriously and covering him tightly, but Pete would just dribble past him and score regardless. In 1962, when Pete was 16, Press got hired as an assistant at NC State, and that's when Pete got his nickname. At that time, Maravich Jr. was not yet physically mature, and due to his lack of strength, he shot the ball from the hip with an outstretched arm that resembled holding a pistol. Thus, Pistol Pete was born.
So he used to take the ball and go down like this and shoot like this, and it resembled to this person, the guy drawing. So he said, "Yeah, it looks like he's shooting, with a pistol."
Pete graduated in 1965, but due to his weight of just 130 pounds, his father decided he should spend a year in prep school to get physically ready for college. Pete then attended Edwards Military Institute, where he averaged 33 points per game. Now standing at 6'5", Pete was absolutely unstoppable. And despite still being fairly slender, weighing just 160 pounds, he was sought after by every major university in the country. Pete could have chosen any college he wanted, but Press used every available tactic to convince him to go to LSU, where he became the head coach in 1966. He gave me a contract and said, "Sign it, or I'd never have to come home again." "Dad, you know I'm not going with you unless you buy me a car," Pete said. Press eventually relented, took out a loan, and bought him a car, after which the Pistol joined LSU. However, because NCAA rules at the time did not allow freshmen, regardless of their talent, to play for the varsity team, Pete was forced to play only with the freshmen. In his first game, Maravich put up 50 points, 14 rebounds, and 11 assists against Southeastern Louisiana College. The word of his talent spread quickly, and the crowd at LSU would often watch the freshman games and then leave once Pete's game was over, showing little interest in watching the varsity team. Pete averaged 43.6 points per game and led the freshmen to a 17-1 record that season, while the varsity team, led by Press, had a record of 3-23. In his sophomore year when he joined the varsity team, Pete transformed from a local hero to a national sensation, dribbling through his own and opponent's legs, passing behind his back, no-look passes, and torching every opponent that came across him. Maravich was a must-see spectacle. Even in the South, where football had always been the undisputed king among sports, everybody went completely crazy for basketball because of Maravich. The Pistol averaged 43.8 points as a sophomore, 44.2 as a junior, and 44.5 points in his senior year, averaging 44.2 points, 6.4 rebounds, and 5.1 assists per game. He directly contributed to more than 60% of all LSU points during his tenure, but despite his brilliance, the Tigers never qualified for the March Madness. With 3,667 points, Maravich is still the all-time NCAA leader in points scored, despite playing only 3 seasons, and without a three-point line. Analysts later calculated that his overall average would have risen to 57 points if three-pointers were counted, because he made 12 field goals per game from a distance greater than the later set three-point line. By the time he finished college, Pistol Pete was the most well-known player in the country, and he had plenty of options for continuing his career. He was contacted by half of the ABA teams, many NBA teams, and even the Harlem Globetrotters, who offered him $1 million to join them. Maravich dribbled the ball like a Globetrotter. He shot the ball better than all of them, and he knew every basketball trick in the book. Between his legs, behind the back, dribbling 2 balls at the same time, you name it, Pistol Pete was doing it. If he had joined the Globetrotters, he would have been the first white member, but he would have fit right in because he had a unique skill set. However, his dream was to play in the NBA like his dad, and the Pistol was selected with the 3rd pick by the Atlanta Hawks in the stacked 1970 NBA draft.
We are most happy to announce that Pete Maravich will play professional basketball for the Atlanta Hawks.
The Hawks gave Pete an astronomical contract of $1.9 million for 5 seasons. At almost $400,000 a year, that was 10 times the NBA average salary at the time. Pete also signed many endorsement deals, shot commercials, and became a superstar as an NBA rookie, which didn't sit too well with the rest of the Hawks players. They didn't look at him as a beloved star and savior, but a braggadocious white kid with a huge contract who didn't deserve their respect. He wasn't just a great white hope for Atlanta, but for the entire NBA. The problem was also in the management. They didn't want to pay $60,000 to bring Lenny Wilkins to us, and for this guy, even millions are not a problem, said Lou Hudson, the Hawks' all-star small forward. Sometimes he would pay the bill at dinner, and they would criticize him for showing off and wasting money, and when he didn't pay, they would say he had all that money and was a stingy a-hole. There were problems off the court and on the court because of his style of play. Maravich continued to play in the NBA just like he did in college, running around the court, performing all sorts of trickery with the ball and throwing unexpected passes to teammates, so the ball often hit him in the head or went out of bounds. One time, we could have played a quick counterattack, and he just rolled the ball on the floor. I couldn't believe it and just let it go out of bounds. The coach was mad at me because I didn't pick up the ball. And why did he roll it? Let him do that in the Harlem Globetrotters. Lou Hudson recounted in a situation that perfectly reflected the relations in the team. Pete averaged 23.2 points and 4.4 assists in his rookie season, but for the first time in his career, he didn't enjoy playing basketball. Unlike in college, the main question for fans was no longer how many points did Pete score, but did the Hawks win? And the answer, more often than not, was they didn't. The Hawks had a losing record in the regular season, and in the playoffs, they were quickly eliminated in the first round by the Knicks. Pete averaged 22 points in the series, but shot a poor 37% from the field. The media and fans altered the context of the nickname Pistol Pete, portraying Maravich as a gunslinger who prioritized his numbers. Pete took those claims personally, and in 1972, his sophomore year, he took 4 fewer shots, averaging 19.3 points, but his assists numbers went up, with 6 dimes per game. He also contracted mononucleosis, causing him to lose 20 pounds, which certainly had an impact on his game. That year, the Hawks won only 36 games, the same as the previous year, and in the first round of the playoffs, they were once again knocked out pretty easily, despite Maravich scoring 28 points per game. But in his third year, Pete was tired of trying to be liked by his teammates. He started doing what he knew best, being a wizard with the basketball. Maravich averaged 26.1 points and 6.9 assists per game, earning his first All-Star team selection and a point on the second All-NBA team. The Hawks won 46 games, but in the playoffs, the John Havlicek-led Celtics were too strong once again, winning the series in 6 games. In his fourth year, the Pistol improved his scoring, averaging 27.7 points per game, the second best mark in the league, and made another All-Star team. However, the Hawks plummeted to a 35-47 record, failing even to make the playoffs. It was clear that the marriage between Pete and Atlanta wasn't working out. So the Hawks traded him to the New Orleans Jazz, an expansion team from Louisiana. The Jazz needed a proven star to sell tickets and establish the franchise, and no one was better than Maravich, a local hero from LSU. The Jazz gave the Hawks 2 players and 4 draft picks for Maravich, who regained all the power and the rock star status. But just a few months later, his world began to crumble. His mother had been in a bad mental state for a long time. She was neglected in a family that lived for basketball while she felt excluded. And in late 1974, her struggles ended in tragedy as she took her own life. After that, Pete began to reevaluate his life and career, and more than ever, he wanted to achieve his dream and win a ring. So he began to transform into a more team-oriented player rather than a star. However, the Jazz were a new franchise with few quality players, and Pete, despite his desire to win and play team ball, had to do everything again. In 1976, the Pistol averaged 26 points and made the first All-NBA team. In 1977, he led the league in scoring with 31.1 points per game, finishing third in the MVP voting behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bill Walton. On February 25, 1977, Pistol Pete scored 68 points against the Knicks, which at the time was the 7th highest scoring game of all time and the highest scoring game ever by a guard.
Here's a basket for him if he can convert. 68 for Maravich, and a steal. Look at him fight for this ball. The Pistol's doing it all. A great ball game.
That feat is even more impressive when we know that he was guarded by Walt Frazier, one of the premier defensive guards of the 70s, and that he scored 68 without a three-pointer. But the Jazz didn't make the playoffs for the 3rd consecutive year, and Pete was getting desperate, willing to do anything to win. In 1978, Maravich played the best all-around season of his career, averaging 27 points, 6.7 assists, and a career-high 2 steals per game. He would have probably led the league in scoring once again, and likely even pushed the Jazz to the playoffs. But then, unfortunately, he injured his knee halfway through the season and was forced to miss the final 32 games of the season. Before he got hurt, the Jazz had a winning record, thanks to a 10-game winning streak. After Maravich went down, they lost 8 in a row, and their playoff hopes were shot. To make things worse, the Pistol hurt his other knee in the offseason and missed 33 games in 1979, averaging 22 points per game. The Jazz missed the playoffs again, and the owner decided to move the franchise to Salt Lake City, where the current Utah Jazz were founded in 1979. Due to persistent knee problems, Pete was often unable to practice. A new coach, Tom Nasalki, believed that if he couldn't practice, he couldn't play. Adrian Dantley emerged as the new star, and the Jazz fired Maravich in January 1980. As a free agent, he was picked up by the Boston Celtics, along with the man who would take his role of the NBA's great white hope, Larry Bird. Pistol accepted a supporting role, mostly coming off the bench, while one rule change finally unlocked his biggest weapon, shooting. The NBA introduced the three-point line that season, and Maravich made 10 of 15 attempts, shooting an unreal 67% from 3. After 10 years in the league, Pistol Pete finally won a playoff series as the Celtics swept the Sixers in the first round. However, Pistol's knees were shot, pun intended, and he was able to play just 9 minutes per game, during which he scored 6 points on average, making 61% of his shots. In the second round, the Celtics lost to the Sixers in 5 games, and Game 5 of the series was the final game of Pistol Pete's legendary career. He retired at the age of 32, just like his father, with career averages of 24.2 points, 4.2 6.2 rebounds, and 5.3 assists. At the time of his retirement, he was the 7th leading scorer of all time, and he's currently 25th in points per game. And even though the Celtics wanted to re-sign him for the 1981 season, Maravich feared that his knees would give up, and he didn't want to be the version of himself far below his basketball talent. And when the Celtics won the 81 title without him, Pete fell into a deep depression because he realized he could have achieved his lifelong dream, after which he became addicted to alcohol and nearly went down the same path as his mother. It took him several years to recover, but through faith and the support of his family, he bounced back. In 1987, Pete was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and in January 1988, Maravich traveled to California to be interviewed by evangelical author and psychologist James Dobson for his radio show. He and his friends were playing basketball in a local church gym, and during the game, Maravich collapsed on the floor. Dobson said that his last words before he died were, "I feel great." An autopsy revealed that Maravich had been born with a heart defect, lacking a left coronary artery, and the other artery had been compensating for the defect during his entire career. In one interview in 1974, Pete said, "I don't want to play in the NBA for 10 years and then die of a heart attack at 40. But unfortunately, that's precisely what happened, as he played for 10 years and passed away 6 months after his 40th birthday. But despite passing too soon, Pistol Pete's legacy is alive and well, as many of the skills he showcased during the 70s are now used in the NBA. If you look at LaMelo Ball's underhand full-court pass, it's nearly identical to Maravich's from the 70s.
Rebound. Maravich with an underhanded pass over to Stumpy, and Goodrich goes for two.
Magic Johnson was famous for his no-look passes, but Maravich did that first.
Behind the back, how do you do? A little showtime there.
Rajon Rondo was famous for his behind-the-back fake pass, but you guessed it, the Pistol did it 40 years earlier.
Maravich, boy, he's got all kinds of moves. What move doesn't...
Turnaround jumper like MJ, or readjusting his jump shot mid-air like Larry Bird, it was all routinely done by the Pistol.
Pistol fires. Oh, come on, come on!
Maravich was a trendsetter who inspired generations. And if your favorite ball handler didn't learn from the Pistol, they likely stole some moves from someone who stole from Pete.
Kobe to himself, and he scores!
When he played the game, the NBA was dominated by centers like Wilt Chamberlain and Kareem, and guards like him were unicorns. Other than Jerry West, nobody else attempted that many jump shots, let alone made them with great accuracy.
Not too many can shoot off the dribble better than Pistol Pete.
With an unbelievable floater and layup game, finishing with both hands, killer handles, and the ability to both score and pass, Pistol Pete played a brand of basketball 30 or 40 years ahead of his time. If he played in the three-point era, he would likely average around 30 points per game. And if he had played on a better team, he could have easily been an MVP multiple times and won several championships. And since he was the greatest ball handler of his era, having learned everything himself, Pete Maravich is arguably the most talented guard of all time.
I'm not a greedy person. I don't care to have 10 rings. I just want one.
Thank you for watching. And if you like this video, we have another one for you right here.